What's up, and welcome to this week's Invisible Walls. My oh my, are we ever in the best month of gaming ever. It seems like every Tuesday, like 50 games show up on my desk. I don't even know how I'm supposed to manage all my time. But here to help me do that on this week's show is Grumpy McGrump.
Yo, and 49 of those games each week are by the way.
That is true, unfortunately. We also have Patrick Morales sitting in today.
Hey, how's it going?
Michael Damiani.
Hello, everyone.
Brooks Huber.
I was hoping for it. There it is.
And we also have some guys who will jump in and out today when we talk about specific games, so keep your ear to the pavement.
You must rebuild the Golden Axe, or we are lost. Now off with you.
All right, first up we're going to talk about the revitalization, or lack thereof, of a classic franchise that we all hold very close to our hearts. Brooks Huber is here to talk about Golden Axe Beast Rider, and is that axe, in fact, golden?
No, it is not. The Golden Axe should be covered with brown stuff. It is not very fun at all. I had the fortunate task of being able to review that game, and I'll just tell you, the first one, the second one, the old Genesis games are so much better than this new revamped third-person stuff. Right off the bat, I was not a fan that it was a single-player game.
Well, yeah, that's what Golden Axe is. You play with your friends. It's a co-op game.
It's always been like a party game. I have fond memories.
It's been a co-op game for over a decade.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a poor decision on their part, but when you play through the single-player game, it's no fun. I didn't have a good time.
I mean, that's screaming for drop-in, drop-out online co-op.
Yeah.
If there's one game that's going to do it, shouldn't it be Golden Axe?
It boggles the mind, and they still have the characters from the old games that make it so great. They integrate them into the story, but they're just never playable or anything.
It's just like a tease.
It's
they're
a
like,
big
this is
tease.
what you could have got, but instead you get this.
Lots of teases. They even include those little gnomes that you whack for
Those
potions.
are very annoying too, because those guys run around so fast on the level, you have no chance to hit them. It's like a chicken with his head cut off.
Well, I'm surprised at how gory it is.
Yeah, how bloody it gets.
Gratuitously disgusting.
But it's not like a gratifying gory. It's just, it's over the top. It's not done right.
Because it
It's
happens
cheesy
every
gore.
time.
Yeah.
Like, gore is one of those things where if it happens every single time, it loses its impact. But if you have a game where, you do a couple headshots, you see a little blood, then you get that one where you hit him right in the eye socket and the head explodes, and you're like, yeah!
Yeah, but see, the combat is so broken, it's not fun to do, so when you do chop them in half, you're just not like...
Well, it happens every time.
Yeah.
Every swing you make chops off a limb. It's like, it's ridiculous. It's like the enemies are made out of Play-Doh or something.
I think the problem with Beast Rider in general that it's trying to pander to a new standard of action games rather than, sticking true to its cooperative, multiplayer roots. I guess it's just trying to, stack itself up against God of War.
It looks like it just tried to ape those games.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
it looks like a total God of War ripoff.
It is unfortunate to see, the Golden Axe we know and love kind of.
Yeah, all games
descent
try
to
to
this.
emulate God of War's greatness, but they always just come so short. It's not even worth playing. It's not even that fun. It makes you want to go out and play God of War because it's like, it's how it's done right.
Cute. Anyway, these high-tech thugs are already out in the city.
Then it's time we thumped some thugs.
All right, next we're going to talk about Spider-Man Web of Shadows. Now, this is the first Spider-Man in a while that hasn't been based on one of the movies other than that god-awful Wii game that came out last year when the other ones came out.
Friend or foe?
Friend or foe, that's right. Mostly foe. What about this one, Michael? What do you think of Web of Shadows?
Game should crawl back into the shadows and never come back out.
Is it that bad?
Holy crap, it is bad.
What's wrong with it?
Let's see. Presentation-wide, it has horrible tearing. It has clipping. It has frame rate issues all over the place. Invisible objects. Lots of bugs. Combat is broken. It's really boring.
I kept seeing you doing the same attack over and over.
Repetitive gameplay, repetitive design. Let's see, the one thing I was going for at the boss battles. The first few boss battles were pretty cool. And then you get to Wolverine, which was supposed to be the big highlight of the game. You encounter him in an alley, and he starts asking you Marvel trivia questions.
No way.
Yes.
What?
Yes. And the more you get right, the more obscure they get.
And he doesn't fight alongside you or nothing?
He fights. You can summon these people into battle at points if you align yourselves with them. But just for this encounter, this is the first time you encounter him. It's like a boss battle. You fight him for about 10 seconds. He climbs up to the wall, and in his best Christian Bale voice, he's like, "Tell me the answer to this question."
What are your parents' names?
You're kidding me.
And this goes on for about like 5 minutes.
Well, how do they rationalize Spider-Man fighting Wolverine anyway? Or do they?
Wolverine just randomly appears. He sniffs his power smell. He can tell that Spider-Man.
Smell funny.
Yeah, Spider-Man's been infected with the symbiote, so he can tell. He thinks he's a bad guy at first. But then he's like, well, as long as you control it, I'll fight alongside you, basically. And then he's relegated to basically an NPC who gives you missions.
So is this another one of those, there's 4 mission types, there's the dude hanging off the building, there's the old woman being attacked by thugs, there's...
Oh, the thugs. Most of the beginning of the game is about stopping gang wars. They should just call it Spider-Man Gang Wars because you're breaking up gang fights in the streets.
Probably would have sold better.
Yeah. I mean, the story, the concept, it looked like a good concept at first. Just that concept, you're thinking about the people being infected by venom.
Well, it looked to me like Prototype. I mean, it pretty much has the same exact setup.
You got to say, I mean, I sat next to Michael when he was playing it, and it looked like he was playing the same level over and over again. Prototype in its prototype level looked way better and more like New York than this stinking pile of poo.
I'm just saying the whole setup of there's this alien life form taking over the city, and there's these pods that are creating more of them, and the citizens are being turned into...
But that aspect doesn't even rear its head until like the last portion of the game. The first 3/4 of the game is just random running around with very little story. Such a
The sad part of it all is that the game's probably going to sell pretty well.
Probably. There's enough fan service in there that, like, you know, Spider-Man / Marvel fans are going to eat it up.
Although they don't have the advantage of that big wave of marketing money that they usually get from the films, which is usually what helps their game sell. So it'll be interesting to watch.
The swinging mechanics are very good. They're better than Spider-Man 2, so there's the one saving grace it has. It's a guilty pleasure to swing around the city, but beyond that, it's absolute crap.
Alright, so with the launch of Wii Music and Guitar Hero World Tour, I think it's finally time that we talk about music games in general, try to steer people in the right direction on which one they should be buying this holiday season, compare and contrast, all that fun stuff. First of all, let's talk about Wii Music. Bloodworth, you've been the one reviewing that for the site. Having fun?
Yeah, it's like almost a schizophrenic experience sometimes, because there will be like these moments where, like, when you're dedicated and like you're learning and you get to a spot to where like this actually sounds good, and then you turn around and play multiplayer and it's just a disaster.
What, because is it that it's too hard to be precise enough to make the music sound good, and when you get 4 people together, that's exponentially increases the problem?
That, and Nintendo wants you to try to play everything by ear. And there is a note chart that you can bring up, and when you bring it up, it doesn't look good or anything. It doesn't look like it belongs there. You know, but for the most part, they want everyone to just try to figure out the song, and that doesn't really work so well.
Is it possible to do that and make a song sound good? Is it even in your wildest dreams possible for that to happen? I mean, granted, Nintendo completely tanked.
If you have a group of like really dedicated people that wanted to do that, yeah, but they just assemble a random group of friends, and like, again, your song selection is like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and Turkey in the Straw and like the Bridal March. You know?
What?
Yeah, it's really
and then they've got like 5 Nintendo songs, like the theme from Wii Sports and then the theme from Mario Brothers.
Are there any pop songs at all? Or
there's a whole bunch of like old like 80s pop songs, like Madonna Material Girl is in there. And but of course they don't have any lyrics or anything, so it's just, you know, you play the melody with the bagpipes or whatever you want to do.
You would think with all the money that they have, what does it figure, like each employee gets them $1 million of revenue per year or something insane like that? That they would license some music for the game.
Yeah, and then the sound samples, of course, it sounds almost like they've been using the same sound samples since the N64 era. But I mean, if you think about like what Jam Sessions sounds like on the DS, and it's just exquisite. It almost sounds like a real guitar when you hook it up to a speaker. And then this stuff, it's just like, oh, I've heard ringtones better than this.
So can we actually sort of like, you know, use this game as you know, the cutting off point to say Nintendo have officially lost the frigging plot?
Yeah.
I mean, this was their big announcement. This is their big Q4, you know, title for, you know, for the Wii. And you know, I've seen you playing it. I had a little play over the weekend, and I must admit, it's like Rock Band for retards.
Yeah.
It's just it's not playable. It's not fun. And you know, I know you were talking to me earlier about the drums, and you know, tell everybody how the drums work.
Yeah, I gave Rich a shot at the drums, and
and just as a qualifier, Rich Brown is the best Rock Band Guitar Hero drummer in the office. He's a real drummer who can play a real trap kit. So go ahead.
Yeah, and he could not figure it out. Like, you're
But it's user-friendly.
You have the Wii balance board, which you use, for your feet, and that's just normal because you would only have 2 feet anyways. But for actually hitting the drums, they didn't make it so that you would just naturally like hit the drums in the air.
Where they are. Because
Yeah.
you imagine that like you reach out, that gives you a cymbal crash. If you're, pounding it down by your legs, that's a snare, but that's not the case.
No, you have to hold different buttons. You have to hold up or right or down on the cross pad or the A or B button. Or if you're using your left hand, you would hold directions on the analog stick to hit those drums. And like, just imagine, like trying to just like hit across all the drums in a line, and you'd like have to be shifting your finger that quickly.
Well, that actually segues nicely into Guitar Hero World Tour, because the one feature that we really liked about that game before we really got our hands on it was the music creator, where you could create your own songs. And having spent 2 or 3 days with the game, I can firmly say that I don't think anybody is going to be able to create any good music with that thing. It's the most complicated app inside a console game I've ever seen.
Do you think that it's needlessly complicated, or just that it maybe gives you too many tools to work with?
I think that, one, people who have said that people who make electronic music have no talent are going to realize that those people are really freaking talented. They do a really good job of simplifying something that is really, really complicated, but it's still not simple enough. Like, I just don't see the average person. I mean, it takes an hour just to watch the tutorials of how to use it. And then there are no actual tips inside the interface at all. So if you're working on something and you forget how to do something, you have to back out, go back and watch the tutorial video again to figure out what's going on. And this is simple stuff like recording.
Right.
Like, for instance, for recording, you have to hit like the D-pad right and then left. That's how you start recording. And you hit it right again to stop it. So like, for instance, I was like trying to record a song. I could not remember how to stop it. And I had to go quit it, go back to the tutorial, figure out how to stop the recording. So that's just a tutorial, an hour long. You start actually fiddling around with it, it just takes, you need a mouse and a keyboard to work with an interface like this, is what really the problem is. Like, you can literally use the guitar to make the songs if you want to. I think there will be some people that learn how to use it and will really do some cool stuff. The other problem is once I finally got a song or even a little loop done, when I finally listened to it, just the overall sound quality from it just isn't up to snuff. Like, you could never make something on this and pass it off as real music. It's a nice tool maybe to get a tune that's in your head out, but I think that's probably the best case scenario for it. The other issue you guys have probably all seen already is the drums. Apparently they're defective. The drum set that we have is definitely defective.
Really?
Well, yeah, you're not the only one. It's actually up on the Activision threads that the red drum kit, the red drum, if you will, is not registering with a lot of people. You hit it as hard as you like, and it's just coming off soft. And yeah, there's a big snafu with dodgy drums out there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think it's just the red pad on the drums that we have. It's like all of them just at random will not pick up the drum hits.
Right.
The other problem is the cymbals, which are great, by the way. Playing the drums on this thing is awesome. It actually makes you feel like you're playing a real drum kit. Like, you cross your arms to play the hi-hat and snare, and when you crash the cymbals, it makes you feel like you're playing drums. Whereas Rock Band, you feel like you're playing bongos with audio cues assigned to them. Here, you really feel like you're playing the drums. The problem is, as you hit the cymbals, the plastic things that hold them down become loose. So after every song, you have to reach up and physically tighten like the plastic bolts that are holding on the cymbals. And they're plastic, so eventually they're probably just going to break. And if you don't tighten them, then they don't register your hits. Adding to the problem is that you have to hit both of the cymbals at once to go into overdrive. So if they're not 100% sensitive, you lose your opportunity at overdrive. Plus, you have to pull your hands away from the other drums to do it. It's pretty frustrating, in all honesty. Guitar stuff's good. The other criticism I would level against it is that if you play the career by yourself, you aren't unlocking songs for everything else. So say I finished the whole game solo mode. If I go back, or I have people over to play as a band, we have to start from ground zero and start unlocking songs again. You can't play the songs that you've unlocked in the other modes.
That's kind of a weird design choice.
It's it's a dinosaur. It's it's at the same time, it is a first effort for these guys. I do have to commend them in some ways for getting so much right, because it is still fun to play. It is still very much like Rock Band. Vocals are handled very well. Guitars are handled very well. I like the slider part. as an option. I hope they never make it mandatory. So I commend them on a first effort, but, and we are owned by MTV. I'll get that out of the way right now. So I know some of you are already typing on the comments section that you bastards are owned by MTV, and you're always going to say that Guitar Hero is better. No. To that I say, we chose Guitar Hero over Rock Band at E3, and here we are now that we finally got a chance to play with the final product, and I'm wholeheartedly recommending Rock Band over Guitar Hero after playing both. And is anybody recommending Wii Music?
No.
Crickets.
Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get these games on the Wii too, by the way. So it's not like you have to get Wii Music because there's no other music games.
I've never been sick or injured. My blood is incredibly strong and pure. So I will be donating a pint of blood a week to the uninsured. Just a little bit of my blood and your immune system will be indestructible.
All right, again, huge week for releases. Also coming out this week, Command & Conquer Red Alert 3. Some of the coolest trailers we've had on the site in recent memory have come from this game. How did the end result turn out, Grumpy?
Well, I think you were very brave, letting me play a EA game, considering how much I love them. It was actually a very nostalgic moment for me to put this back in, because I actually remember one of the first games I reviewed my first 10 years as a journalist back in 94, 95 was Command & Conquer. And I remember first seeing that with the FMV footage and how inspiring and just awe-inspiring actually it was. So yeah, when I was playing this, and I've played all 3 campaigns, I was not blown away. I mean, the gameplay hasn't really evolved a huge amount. I mean, especially when you see some of the games that have come out, like World in Conflict, where they've taken the RTS convention, made it fully 3D, and really sort of like
streamlined it.
Yeah, streamlined it, made it easy to drop in and drop out. I mean, Red Alert does stick to the tried and true RTS conventions, where you set up your base, you build your this, that, and the other, or you've got your lone soldier who you have to protect and wander around. I mean, they've spent a lot of money on this. I mean, we've seen the footage, we've seen the hot girls, we've seen the actors.
They spent all the money on the chicks, dude. The game is crawling with hot chicks.
I mean, they've got great actors in there. I mean, it's some of the best in-game acting that I've seen. I mean,
now are you being facetious? Or
no, actually, you know what? I think because everybody's playing it, tongue-in-cheek, it comes across, and nobody's taking it seriously. Right. But it's not like hamming it up. So it's actually very amusing to watch. And the ladies, across the board are all very, very hot.
I think they're very smart about that. They're like, you know what? Why don't we just pay for 8 really hot chicks to be in this, and we'll have 2 dudes and.
Yeah, I mean, they've got Mr. Sulu is the George Takei is the head of the Japanese empire, and he's hysterical. You've got these, you've got all these cool vehicles to play with. Obviously, the Japanese have got the big robotic type things that are very cool to watch. We do have. Dolphins with laser beams on their heads, which is friggin' hysterical, and then that's the US and UK missions, and then the Russians have got big trained bears, grizzly bears, who go in and shred people. And you get attack dogs as well. So there is a lot of humor. It's definitely a tongue-in-cheek game. I think it's getting a little bit thin. It points to it for not taking itself too seriously, but I think the franchise just needs to be reinvigorated. They need to perhaps trim it down, chop away some of the chaff that really.
Well, I think they tried that, right? And then they came back a couple years ago with the triumphant return of live action, cinemas or whatever.
Well, there's a market for it. I know it's gonna sell really well. Personally, I still maintain that the first Red Alert, the first Command & Conquer, actually out of Westwood Studios, was the best, and everything that's followed it in that franchise has been really kind of disappointing. Even though they've upped the bells, they've upped the whistles, and they've upped the the video content, I still prefer that very first one. The nod rules.
Very pretty game though.
It is very pretty, especially if you're looking at Jenny McCarthy in a tight little tank top. Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic.
Yeah, I thought it was a very good-looking game for a strategy game. That's the one thing that struck me every time I check it out. It seems like it's the best-looking strategy game I've seen.
Well, it's good-looking from the FMV perspective, but actually, if you zoom in pretty close on the characters, they don't look that good.
Oh, really?
I mean, you're looking at little, almost like flat pseudo 3D characters. The Jenny McCarthy character, which is this kick-ass commando. She looks like a little caricature. I mean, she looks like something from Super NES days. If you get in and have a look up close. Like I said, some of the big effects are really nice. Calling in the bombing strikes, watching the robots, trash things, but from a distance. But when you look at some of the other games where you've been able to go in up close and personal, you can't get in.
And it
that
doesn't
up
look
close.
ugly.
No, I mean,
pretty rare.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is that it'd be nice to go in and see how great that is. So fans of Command & Conquer will like it. Me, I expected a bit more.
All right. Fair enough.
Are you planning on fighting the enemy, Commander? Or are you just going to hide in your base?
To you, comrade.
All right, next up is the return of On the Hook. We haven't answered your questions for a bit, but we're back with 3 of the best ones we've pulled from the comments from the past week. And Brooks Huber, you have question number 1.
All right, Cloverfield 447. Do you think that Nintendo will continue the lead in the sales even without releasing many first-party games for the 4th quarter of the year? Or will Sony and Microsoft pull ahead with hardcore games like Gears 2 and Resistance 2? Well, we were just talking about Wii Music and how it's not very impressive, and that was one of their heavy hitters this holiday season.
Quote, heavy hitter.
I don't see that, having it be a sales topper.
Well, there is Animal Crossing, though.
There is Animal Crossing that's coming out later.
And that game traditionally has sold very, very well.
And they're already saying
there's
there's
a shortage. How many of them are going to actually
shortage.
shift units this fall? I mean, there are a lot of Wiis out there. People are still trying to get Wiis to, let their kids have Wii Sports and Wii Fit and that. But how many, is Animal Crossing a unit shifter with regards to, a lot of the hardcore have already bought their Wiis?
I don't think that's the case. I mean, without any big Q4 games, they still sell 600,000 units a month in America, and that's before they've really got their Q4 shipments out there and flooded the channels. So, I mean, for Sony and Microsoft to pull ahead, I mean, I'm assuming he's just talking about on a monthly sales basis. Will they sell more units than Nintendo in November?
Well, with Microsoft's
December?
price drop right now, they're really doing well. They're selling a lot. One of our guys that didn't own a 360 went out and bought one last week.
$200, man. I mean, you think about it.
It's hard to beat.
You get a 360 for $200 and you look at the Wii for $250 and you're like, just stick that controller in the 360 and we're good to go. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. But, I mean, no, I don't think that they will catch him, even with all those hardcore games. I mean, I don't think Animal Crossing is going to be a huge unit mover. I think a lot of people that want to play Animal Crossing probably already have a Wii. But it's a juggernaut at this point. It's like the PS2. There were months where nothing came out for the PS2. There are still months where nothing comes out for the PS2, and it still sells so many units. In Japan, it was like, I think they figured out like 70 or 80% of the entire population had a PS2 during its height. So I think once you get that much momentum, I think it's just pretty much impossible to stop it. And I think obviously Microsoft and Sony will sell more units in November and December.
Definitely.
I think they'll more than double what they usually sell in a month, or probably even triple it. But
yeah, there's so many good games coming out.
But I wouldn't be surprised if the Wii sells 1 million units in a month in November.
Yeah.
In all
And
honesty.
it just goes to show that the Wii can sell it. They've done the marketing, but they've got no games coming out.
Yeah.
They got nothing but crap.
I don't even think people think about that. They just want a Wii. They
Well,
don't care
that's the
what.
thing. It's
they just
a
want
fan.
Wii.
It's like the iPhone.
Yeah.
The Wii, we had this discussion a couple of weeks ago. The Wii and the iPhone are, totally, identical, if you will, with regards to the sort of people who will buy them. And people will camp out at Best Buy or Toys R Us to get their Wiis.
But they still do latch on to some of the games. Like, for instance, Guitar Hero last year sold best on the Wii. So there are certain games for that platform that are third-party that end up resonating with that audience and end up selling by the bucket load. So
Bet you the Hannah Montana games sell like buggery this year.
they do. I'm sure they do. It's sad, but it's just that's the market for that system. And I mean, I think certainly Microsoft and Sony will significantly cut into, the percentage over them that Microsoft or that Nintendo usually is. I think, Nintendo may outsell them by 30% or something like that over the holiday. But after the holiday's over, it'll probably go right back to business as usual.
My prediction is Nintendo 1, Microsoft 2, Sony 3.
I think that's a pretty safe bet. All right, next up, we have a question from Johnny Appleseed. Planting his seed all around the world. And he's planted one in the GT forums and has sprouted this question. I was wondering how many people total the staff at GT and how many are involved with the video reviews? How long on average does a review take to produce? Wow. Let's see, our editorial staff is, well, we can count them. They're all sitting right here.
There's 4.
No, our editorial staff is what, about 6, I guess?
Yeah.
That's a safe
1,
number.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
7.
Yeah.
We have 7 on our editorial staff. Compared to a lot of other websites you may go to, that's a pretty small number. When I worked at GameSpot, and granted this was in the bloated internet days of the late 90s, our editorial staff there was about 30, 35 people. So compared to that, and granted, you know, when the bubble popped, a lot of people lost their jobs at GameSpot during that period. But, you know, compared to our competition, our editorial staff is pretty small. To answer the question of how long on average does it take to make a video review, well, then you're starting to pull in a lot of different departments of the company. You're dealing with our compression department. You're dealing with our video editors who sit in the edit bays and cut our stuff together. You're dealing with interns who capture footage.
And then Brian does the voiceovers over in the booth.
Yeah, Brandon, you mean?
Yeah, but his door says Brian Jones, so it's finally catching up to me.
Yeah. So Brandon has to voice it. I mean, and then we also have a network of freelancers who actually don't work in the office, who write reviews for us outside of the office and then send them in. And actually, I would like to address one thing that a lot of you guys complain about in our reviews. A lot of times you guys will watch our reviews and you'll see what footage we have and you'll say, oh my God, those guys played that game for 2 hours or 3 hours. Well, here's the catch, people. The catch is that those games were reviewed outside of the Game Trailers offices, where people do not have access to HD capture equipment. So what happens is those people play the games to the end, they write the review, they send them back to us, and then we have to capture footage to match what they talk about. So basically, once we get to the point in the game where we have enough footage to cover everything they talk about, that's where we stop. So that's why sometimes you think, because of the footage that you see in the review, that's all the farther we've played. That is not the case.
Yeah, and if we don't review MMOs in-house, that's a whole other can of worms.
Yep, as we're going through right now with Warhammer Online, we had someone from out of house review the game, and the problem was when he was reviewing it, it was on the beta. So as soon as the beta ended, they wiped his character. So now we're left trying to get footage to cover a review where he talks about all this high-level content, but we have characters that are level 10. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that gives you guys some insight onto some of the things that you guys see in our reviews where you're like, hey, what's going on here? They're the biased, but we're not.
And the other thing is that with the footage, you also don't want to give away too many plot points later on in the game, because everybody buys the game to play through and explore it for themselves. So it's actually better to have some of the lower level stuff so people are surprised. So here at Game Trailers, we're doing you a favor because we love you.
Well, people do bitch that we put spoilers in our reviews, but the thing is that the only people that realize that there are spoilers are people who have already finished the game. Like sometimes we'll need a shot of the main bad guy in the game, and maybe they don't really show that guy until the end. So we'll put in literally like a 2-second shot of the bad guy from a scene that may be from near the end of the game. Nobody knows that's from the end of the game until they've played the game and realize, oh my God, you spoiled. I didn't spoil anything for you. We just wanted to show you who the bad guy was. So take it easy, people. We're trying to not spoil games for you. Yes, our process is much more in-depth than a lot of other people's. That's why our reviews are late a lot of the time. Like I said, sometimes we have to do the freelancer thing where they play it, they bring it back, we got to capture footage. There's a lot more that goes into our reviews. Once we get the script done, that's just sort of half of the process for us. That's the end of the process for everybody else. So it sucks. We try to get our reviews out in as timely a manner as possible. It's just kind of the nature of the beast.
I have a question from Matty Matt, and he asks, do any of you have any predictions as to how the industry will perform this holiday season? It's definitely one of the biggest seasons for games, but how will the economy affect or be affected? Can the video game industry be a stepping stone to bring the economy out of a recession?
Great question.
That is actually a really, really smart question. I'm glad I picked it.
Matty Matt.
Yeah. Honestly, I think, games are actually in for probably a big season. I mean, they're predicting that, things like going out to the movies or staying in and watching TV or playing games, because you get more value for money. It's better value than going out and dropping $100 on dinner for two, or going out and doing something that like going to a theme park for a day. So I think game sales will not be affected this year. Because, at the end of the day, people will not buy things for themselves if they're going to buy something for their kids or whatever, or buy a game for themselves because they know they're going to get stronger sales out of stronger satisfaction out of it. Will it bring the economy out of a recession? I don't think so.
That'd be nice.
It would be fantastic if video games saved us all. Yeah. I think there's not much just going to bring the world out of recession right now. But yeah, I think we're in for another big year. I think we'll still do well. We probably won't do as well as last year because the standard of games last year was much higher. You'd have a much bigger selection. But
there are more consoles out there now.
There are more consoles out there, but I think Gears 2, Resistance, Little Big Planet, the Wii. I mean, there's enough stuff out there that people will buy for their kids this year, and people will perhaps splash out for themselves.
It's definitely going to be hard to top last year's holiday season, but if you just look at the year as a whole, pound for pound, we've had some really heavy hitters.
Yeah.
We've had GTA 4, MGS 4, Brawl, Devil May Cry 4 earlier on in the year. And then we have all these latecomers like Fable 2, Little Big Planet, Gears 2.
I think the numbers will be affected, but I think that the sales in general have been on such a steady climb that it's like, where do you figure out where that climb was sort of sloped off a little bit because of the economy? So I think it's going to be transparent. I think they could have made even more money than they're going to make, but it's still, at the end of the day, it's going to be good sales all around.
I think we'll also see that the bigger games will not drop off as much. It'll be the smaller games with lesser budgets, with the bad reviews ones. They will get more of a kicking with regards to retail because people will buy Little Big Planet, they will buy Resistance, and they may not buy Wii Music, for example, or they may, when we've got 3 music-based games with drum kits out there, they might not buy Rock Band 2, or they might not buy Guitar Hero, or
those might be the tough sells. Actually, you make a good point. Those might be the games that are really adversely affected by this, where they're looking at it like, okay, well, I can spend $200 and get Rock Band or Guitar Hero World Tour, or I could go buy 3 or 4 other games who maybe have an online multiplayer component, like a Call of Duty or a Gears or a Resistance.
Or I could buy an Xbox.
Or you could buy a whole
360,
system.
yeah.
So I think if there is maybe one genre or segment of games that could see a drop-off, it'd probably be those. I mean, that's a pretty big commitment of cash.
I think we might actually also see an upsurge, and this is going to be difficult to track, but an upsurge in people buying points for, Xbox Live Arcade, giving gifts that way, where it's like, have 800 points so you can go and buy a 9.95 game.
Yep. I agree. All right, that's going to do it for this week's show. On behalf of the entire IW squad, thank you for watching/listening. Please head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Leave us a review if you feel like it. Also, please feel free to send any of your questions to invisiblewalls@gametrailers.com. And if we read them on the show, we'll give you Buku GTD. So thanks once again for watching and listening. We'll see you next week.